So now, not only now do we have inherent rights and title, inherent sovereignty that we have to implement and enforce under our governments and our community, by our communities, collectively, by our people, and by our nations. We have now made treaties. So when you impact and look at the effects of treaties and inherent rights, how did we make and implement the national powers of treaty making? And like I said, we had international treaties between our nations on Turtle Island long before non-Indians came into contact with us. So when you move ahead then of implementing the inherent rights that I speak of, the inherent sovereignty, the inherent rights by sector, the inherent rights and title to lands, resources, water, and jurisdiction for airspace, those are reserved, recognized, confirmed, and guaranteed by the international treaties that we made treaties with the Crown and Right of England and Ireland under the Empire of England. And many of you have those similar treaties that have been made. And of course we have the pre-Confederation treaties of the 1600s by the wampum belt down in the east that the nations made with the Crown that laid out the two paths that should be followed for implementation under the international treaties that were made between the two parties. That's not being done today. And when you look at those treaties then, like I said, they're international treaties where we reserved our inherent sovereignty, we reserved our inherent rights by sector, we reserved our inherent rights and title to lands, resources, water, and jurisdiction for airspace. So when we talk about the form of laws we need to construct, we need a separate, special, unique schedule of Indian nations laws that can be implemented collectively by the governments of our nations, by the communities of our peoples, by nation. And keep in mind, it's nations that make treaties. Treaties do not make nations. So that's why we had confederacies of nations collectively on Turtle Island long before we met the non-Indians. So when you take the Federation of Saskatchewan Indian Nations, that's a federation of nations. And those nations made international treaties with the Crown and Right of England and Ireland. And your communities and governments of your communities form the political units of your respective nations. And your peoples and communities form the societies of your nations. And we had highly structured governing systems in the form of democratic systems of governing. So many of the people that come here today and historically came from dictatorships. They know nothing about democratic systems of governing. And to enhance our democratic systems of governing, we also implemented highly structured and disciplined societies in every sector of our governing capacity. Give you an example. Our medicine societies crossed all national boundaries of our nations on Turtle Island, but their functions and duties and responsibilities were very similar. Yes, the unique medicines that were used for healing and for preventive medicines differed because of the plants that they used in their regions. But many of the medicines we consume today internationally come from our knowledge of those plants that we had to live with and on for generations worldwide. So when you take 80% of those medicines that are modern day medicines with chemicals added to them, they originate from our source of knowledge of those traditional medicines. And our people, through the medicine societies, had neutral trading grounds. In Saskatchewan here, just north of Regina, at the beach that's there at Canuckamount. They had a trading grounds there, and neutral trading grounds for the medicine people to come and exchange their information on their medicines and the practice for healing and for preventive medicines and treatment. So that whole medicine society that I'm talking about, like I said, crossed all the boundaries of our nations. So why aren't we implementing it today? Because they regulated themselves. They regulated and controlled the use and occupation of the protocol for gathering our medicines. And we also identified the territories for those different forms of medicines. And we're not protecting them today. We're losing them. So that's an inherent right we have, guaranteed now by treaties.